And I'd like to introduce the speaker, Tony, from Long Beach.
They told me that it's not the 50 people in here that will bother me. It's the 100 eyes. And that's true. My name is Tony, and I am an alcoholic. And I used to come up here on a weekly or once a month for a week about 3 years ago. I used to love to come in this club. Hasn't changed. Hasn't changed much. You guys painted it. Carpet, yeah. Red carpet for me, yeah. Am I self-centered or what? Ah, Jesus. I only got lost twice coming up here. That's great. Got lost even from where we were eating at to come over here. And they says, "Do you know how to get here?" You bet. I know everything. You know, I'm an alcoholic. You bet. Turn right, I'll turn left. Nothing's changed. I got here, got to Alcoholics Anonymous on my fifth 502. And I have 3 of them in this state of California. One in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, and I got one in Miami, Florida, Dade County. So I think just those 3 or 5 things qualifies me to be an alcoholic, or even a seat in this room anyway. Give me an indication that maybe I might have a problem. When my last 502, I was in Long Beach, and it was July the 11th, 1983. And God, I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, I was sitting in that jail one more time, and sitting there and saying, "God, I'm never going to do this again. Never will I ever drink again." I made those promises, you know, thousands and thousands of times. And I don't know if anyone knows where the L.A. County Jail is, and it's downtown L.A. And they took me to county jail, and I live in Long Beach. And since I'm a man of the world and I know everything, I have a lot of pride and I have a lot of knowledge, but I don't know how to ride a bus. I've never ridden a bus in my whole life. And they let me out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they gave me 2 tickets, one to get on the bus and one to transfer the bus if I needed it. But since I didn't know how to do that, and I didn't want to break my pride, I wasn't going to get on no bus. I walked from downtown L.A. to Long Beach. I might be alcoholic. What do you think? I walked and they let me out at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I walked and I kept promising myself, nope, I'm not going to drink. No more. Nope, I am not going to drink. And I kept walking, and I kept seeing these weirdos downtown, and it got better and better because I got closer to Long Beach, you know. I got close to my weirdos, you know, and the people I hung around with, and they weren't weird. And I kept saying, nope, I'm never going to drink. And I just got out of county jail, so I decided to take a shower and take a little nap. Take the jail off of me one more time. I took a shower and I went to bed and got up about 7, 8 o'clock in the afternoon or that night. Sit there watching TV, say, no, I'm not going to have a drink. Wonder what Robert's doing out at the bar. Yeah, no big deal. About 9 o'clock, I was at the bar watching what Robert was doing, and I was drunk by midnight. I was drunk one more time, and I was sitting there in that bar, and I was saying, and I was looking at that Budweiser there, and I was saying, Jesus, what am I doing? Now, one more time, man. I promised myself one more time, never again. You know, and I'm drunk, and I just, the guilt and everything else just came really heavy. And I kept doing it for about 3 months. You know, I kept doing it, I mean, hard and heavy. I got these little things that you have to go to 6 AA meetings, and you have to do it in 12 weeks. And I went to their little classes that they gave, and I sat back in the back way in the back. Cool. You got to sit cool. You got to look cool, you know. And knowing me, because I'm a people pleaser, if you say, "You alcoholic?" Yep. Get the heat off real quick, you know, because I've done that a lot, you know. And at that class, they asked me if I was an alcoholic, and I said yes. And he says, "Do you want to stop drinking?" Yes. "Do you want to go to these meetings?" Yes, you know. And I went to your meetings, and as soon as I left the meetings, I got drunk. You know, and I probably getting a little head, but that's okay, because this is how I got here. You know, I got up Friday morning. I got up April the 18th. I got up and I called in work, and I says, "I'm not going to work. I got paid Thursday night, and I ain't going to work." And I had some mind-altering chemicals as well in my possession, and I ain't going to work. And I partied and I partied and I partied all day and all night. I got home about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I brought this 9mm Beretta that I brought from Miami, and I had it in my drawer. And I come home and I wasn't loaded, and I wasn't drunk. You know, I was probably as clear-minded, but the body was still drunk, and the mind. I know I was drunk, and I know I was not there, but I was there. And I think those who have had that kind of experience knows what that feels like. And I was just there. And I pulled that 9mm out of my nightstand, and I took the clip out. I popped the shells on the bed, and I started putting them back on the shell in the clip, and I put the clip back in, cocked it, emptied it. I played with it for about an hour. And what I was thinking about is, I said, why don't I just end it? Because when I was playing with it, I was looking around my room, and I didn't have a picture on the wall. And I moved in there with my brother that has 20 years at this one job, and he has a Trans Am in the bottom, in the garage, in that apartment. He had a color TV, he has a VCR, he has a stereo set, he had all the utensils of the kitchen that you need. He has a brand new bed, water bed, all of the things that a normal people do when they go to work every day. You know, and I had a bed there that was left from a previous tenant because I didn't have one. It was pissed on, shitted on, and dead and all kinds of stuff on it. Didn't have no sheets. You know, I looked around and there was no picture on the walls, nothing. You know, I remembered in that, and it seemed like it was a long time, but it wasn't. It was just a few moments. You know, this whole thing of I have a daughter that's today that's 21 years old. I have a grandson that's 2 years old, and I have another daughter that's 15. And I had all those things, and I lost them. And I had homes, and I had the good jobs, and all of those things just kept going in my head. And I kept looking around, and I said, "What happened to them? You know, what happened to them? I have no idea what happened to them." You know, and I kept looking at me and inside of me, not in a mirror or anything like this. It was just inside of me. What? I'm dead. Might as well end it. You know, and I kept playing with that thought. Just blow my brains out. Easy, soft way out. Just blow my brains out. Everybody is gonna be happy when I'm gone. You know, because I just brought misery to my family, and most of all to me. The next day I was at this meeting at this Alcoholics Anonymous club called Inner City Fellowship. I was there about 8 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting there and I was shaking, and I needed a drink. 8 o'clock in the morning, I needed a drink. If you be alcoholic, you know what this feeling's like. It's like that knot that's in your stomach, and it's tight. God, it's tight, and your throat is just dry as hell, and your head is not. It's just throbbing, but it's not throbbing. It's just gone, and your stomach is just knotted up like a rock. And I needed a drink, and I just sat there, and this guy kept talking to me, and this guy kept talking to me, and I have no idea how I got there. I mean, I know I got there, but I don't know how I got there. You know, and I sat there, and he kept talking to me, and then it was 11 o'clock meeting. I stayed there for the 11 o'clock meeting, and I stayed there all day long. You know, guys pouring honey into my coffee, and I was shaking so bad that I was shaking. You know, and the 8 o'clock meeting came, and I went to their meeting, and I couldn't hear anything. I had no idea what you guys were talking about. I know I've been to AA meetings before, but it's like everything else I do. If I don't want to hear it, I'll close it out. I'll just turn the switch off in my brain, and I don't hear nothing. I don't hear what you're saying. I don't hear what I'm saying. I just turn it off. You know, and I still couldn't hear. And that meeting went after that. There was a candlelight meeting within 2 hours, and I went to that meeting. This guy asked me if I wanted to go to a candlelight meeting. And I said, sure. You know, it's better than going home and go to a bar. And my knot was, at that time, it was just multiplied now. 8 o'clock in the morning, I haven't had a drink. You know, I haven't had, and that knot was still there at 8 o'clock, and now it's 11 o'clock at night, and there hasn't been a drink in between that two spots. And damn, I was dying. I was dying, man. I needed something. I don't care what it was. Just give me something, you know. And they kept feeding me honey, you know, and my hands were shaking and sweating, you know, and I could smell the Coors from the wheat or Budweiser or whatever I was drinking coming through my pores. I could smell it, you know, and it was getting me nauseous because I wanted the drink. I was ready to stand by a plastic thing and then collect it, you know, and then drink it, you know. I went to this candlelight meeting, and I sat next to this girl that had 6 months of sobriety, and she had she had life, man. Her eyes were open, and she was just, the 12 programs, and she was just running around shaking people's hands, and she was just saying, God, this program's great, and everything else. And I said, I'm going to kill the bitch. God, I wanted to kill her. Just get this animal away from me. She don't know how I felt. I mean, she had no idea how I felt. God. I mean, these people are insensitive people here around here. I mean, I'm dying. And these guys are laughing and joking and hugging each other. And that's when a little bit started coming to me. You know, they're starting to hug each other, and they're holding each other's hands, you know, in the prayer. And I'm sitting there shaking like this, and I'm holding, and the guys did this number after the prayer. Wiped his hand off because I was sweating so bad, you know. And he was doing this number when I was doing the prayer, you know. Kind of stinks a little bit, you know. Has kind of a little ripe here. You know, that brew just keep coming through, man. You know, it was just miserable. So the next day I went to another meeting, and I've met this girl again. And they told me that I heard something, and then I guess there was attraction rather than promotion. And she was attractive. Yeah. And I'm a user, I'm a user. And that's the way I am. I've changed that, but when I was using and abusing, I've always used people, places, and things. And the worst people I used was my mom, my dad, my brothers, my ex-wife, my kids. Those are the people that I love dearly, or I did love dearly at that time. My ex-wife, it's debatable. Anyway, I used those people, you know, so I was going to use her, you know, she was going to fix me. She was going to take care of me. I knew it. This is it. This is the real thing, you know, we were going to go in the sunset, and we were going to be sobriety forever, you know. I was just going to go, hey, we're going to get married in here and everything else. We're going to have AA babies running around, you know. It was great, you know. And she got drunk about 4 days after that. It's okay. Hey, I'm here. You know, let her go out. I don't care. And that's a cruel way to think about it, but it isn't, because I'd rather have you go out than me. But I'd rather help you to stay here. But if your decision to want to go out, that's your decision. It's not mine. Now, I can't keep you here. No, I can't get you drunk. So that's my thought. And, you know, I was in Miami. How crazy! I'll tell you how insanity this disease gets. And I was telling Trinette when we were coming up here about this crocodile. I was a real macho guy in Miami. You know, I wore some fine clothes, and I went to some nice nightclubs, and I did a lot of little white powder stuff. I used to fly to Colombia, Bogota, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador. And I used to come into these nightclubs with a lot of money, and this one girl, this is how sensitive I am and how insane I am, too, at the same time. I went into this nightclub and I asked this girl to dance, and she was a dog. I mean, she was a doll. Jesus. God. She would have had my 7th child. No. She was really good looking, and I asked her to dance, and she denied. She said, no. How dare you? This is Tony. No one says no to Tony. You know, I got hotter than a firecracker, man. I got my buddy. We went out to the swamp, and we got this little baby alligator. We taped it with a little tape on the mouth, because that's all you have to do is to hold it down. And we brought this alligator in, and I asked her if she wants to dance with me again. And she said no. Well, dance with this. And I threw her this alligator. And this alligator's going crazy, man, in this dance floor. The Mamba, what is it called, Mumba, or the Mexican dancers, guys are going crazy and everything else. This alligator's running around here trying to get out of here. It was great. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I do, you know. I end up in jails, and I had to go to the Bronx, New York. I was driving a car that we got in Miami. I was going to drive up to Bronx, New York, with 20,000 Quaaludes in the trunk of my car. And I said, well, it's a long drive from Miami to Raleigh, North Carolina. I deserve a drink. And I got drunk, like I always do, you know. I mean, anytime I drink, I get drunk. And I said, well, I got to make up time now. I spent too much time in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I took off in the car, drunken, hoo-dow, and I started weaving, and this guy says, boy, you got a driver's license? He stopped me, you know, one of those guys. Boy, what are you doing here? So they busted me for drinking and driving. You know, the hillbilly didn't think of looking in the car, you know. And I don't mean anything about that. I don't mean slanderous. I mean, that's how my mentality was at that time. You know, that's how I pictured people. You know, that's how insane I was. I didn't think that there were people like there was part of God in them. That's not how I thought. Not that dumb hick, you know, or I could name a multiple of people, and they didn't catch me. You know, and that's the insanity of this disease. You do things and you believe things, and that's how I believed them. I honestly thought that's the way it was supposed to be. That's the way my life was going to be like. Didn't know that there was a different way. You know, I went to this meeting on Sunday night. I'm back to where this girl was, and she asked me if I wanted to go to this meeting, so I went, and she introduced me to a group of people that had a good foundation. And by the day of the week, you knew where I was at. Like on Monday night, I would be at Rocky Timers in Downey. Tuesday was an in-house meeting. Wednesday was a 12-step meeting. Thursday was a Little Red Book study. Friday was a speaker meeting, participation meeting. It was one speaker a month. Saturday it was a hospital meeting. And Sunday it was a hospital meeting. And that's how I started. And that's how they made me do that. They told me, if you want to stay sober, more than you want to get drunk, then you follow us, and we'll cut you a path, a direction, as long as you want to. So I hung on to those people, you know, and I started following them every night, going to meetings. And I hated it. I says, man, I started about the 4th month. I'm sobrietied out, you know. This is boring, you know. I mean, going to a meeting and listening to some jerk tell me about how he beat his old lady or took the checkbook or did something, and I didn't hear anything. It was just the incident, not how they felt. This is boring. Is this all I'm going to be doing in an AA meeting? You know, and they says, well, you want to get involved, go help somebody. Pick up a newcomer. Shake his hand, pick him up for a meeting, and bring him to our meetings, to the committed meetings that you have. So I said, no problem. We called central office up one time, and there's this guy there, and we picked him up, and he was ripe. And I had a 1982 Buick Regal at that time. And I put him in my back seat. I'm saying, yeah, I'm making 12-step calls now. I'm Mr. AA. I got puking on my back seat. God! I could have killed that old man. I'd have killed him. He puked on me at my car. You know, he's stinking. I'm sitting in this meeting, and I learned about resentment real quick. You know, first 3 months of my sobriety, everything was peachy keen. You know, I was that girl that I sat next to when my first candlelight meeting that was happy, joyous, and free and had everything going. My first 3 months, that's the way it was. I finally got a good resentment, a good one. You know, this drunk puked up in my 1982 Buick Regal. How dare this guy? This has got velour seats in it, man. I mean, that ain't cool to do that shit. God damn. And I'm sitting there going like this. And he goes, how do you feel today? My sponsor says, how do you feel right now? I feel angry. Says, have you ever felt this way when you were drunk? No. I realized something, you know. I started feeling things that I never felt in that drunken state. In my drunken state, I never felt how I felt. The actual feeling of how I felt. I mean, I've got mad before when I was drunk. But it was after I got drunk. I mean, when I was really drunk. It wasn't before or in between when I was just mellow. It was come home and wake up the wife and play Barbies and you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm waking up my two daughters, and my wife is saying, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, they need to sleep. Shut up, B. You know, and one of those B words I used to like to say to her. And I never, you know, I finally got mad at somebody, you know, and I started feeling feelings that I never felt. And at that point, when I started going to the meetings, I started feeling or hearing how they felt and how they got through their feelings, you know. And it was about a year and a half into my sobriety, I got into this relationship, you know, and I got into it, and I got in pretty heavy in it, and all of a sudden, this girl said, adios. She likes Jack Daniels better than me. And she got drunk. And I felt pain. And I mean pain that I've never felt before. And I felt pain like, God, it killed me. You know, somebody took my heart and just ripped it right out of my chest. You know, and just hold it there and held it there. And I watched it throb, you know. And I didn't like that. And I finally had to start writing about things like that, you know, how I felt. And in that pain, in that incident, or that particular pain, that little thing that I did for the whole thing is that I realized that I was married for 14 years. And I never felt pain of that breakup. I've always channeled it through alcohol, to taking drinks or taking drugs. Or even better, get another girl. You know, I've never felt the pain of this one. And they told me when I first got here that I had to feel all the pain that I have had in my drinking state. And I believe that. You know, I have to feel what it is to have a cold. I have to feel like how it is to lose a job, maybe. I have to feel how it is to be excited about Christmas, to see a kid come up and with his eyes and open up, and he's got the joy and the love. You can feel it. You can feel it. And you have to feel it. When I come home to see my kids, when I was drunk, I never felt that. And I said, hey, how you doing? You know, plays Barbies, and I'd pass out. You know, I never felt how when you look at a little girl, and it's your little girl, and she's got this happiness of joy in her eyes, and you can see it right through her. I never felt that. You know, and they told me I had to feel all those pains. You know, and I did that. And I had to write about how I felt about this in order to get through this. And finally, so far, this pain and this pain have matched. Everything so far to this day. Now, tomorrow may be different because I don't know. I don't know anything that's what's happening in the front. But today, I'm in match with my feelings. I'm in line with them today, I think, I hope. You know, because, like, I don't have to worry about the past anymore. I really don't, because I felt all that pain. And it's an easy tool. You know, they told me, he says, all you got to do is make an inventory. Do an inventory of your past. Pray about it in your God. Tell your God that, hey, get me out of this insanity, they told me. You know, pray that you get relieved back to sanity. Get back into the mainstream of life. You know, and I did that. And I kept reading the book, and they told me, he says, keep reading the book. The answers are in the book, and the answers are in the book for you, not for me. You know? The answer's in prayer. Well, the answer's in prayer for you. I've been on my knees for 2 years now. Ain't nothing happening to me. You know? Nothing. All I feel is more pain and more uncomfortability. You know, I got complacent, and I got all that stuff because I was afraid to look inside of me and to find out that Tony's okay. Tony's a nice guy. He really is a nice guy, you know. And I found out through the fourth, and it's just because of pain that what made me do that. I don't do anything, you know. How about doing the fourth today? Yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it, you know. I give you the 4-letter word, flip you off, and hit the bricks, you know. That's my attitude. And you write the fourth, I'll pick it up in a week, you know. One of those deals. Your mama writes them, not me. You know, one of those kind of, and I wouldn't do that, you know. And so the pain got so strong that I had to, because I was uncomfortable with me. Everything I was doing was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable because I was doing it the way I was doing it when I was so drunk. The same way I was doing it drunk, I'm doing it in sobriety. You know, and I knew it was the same way I was doing it when I was drinking. But I didn't know how to change it because I didn't know what it was like. I mean, I didn't know. I could think about it, but as soon as the thought came, it was gone. As soon as I started writing it down, it couldn't go away anymore. And now I had to change it. And, you know, I had to sit there and I had to tell my sponsor, this is me. And I wrote everything down, this is me. And he says, don't hand it to me, you read it. You know, and first he told me, he says, hey, get on your knees. And I said, oh, wait a minute, bud. They don't do that in my country here, you know? I've been in jail too many times. And we don't get on no knees for nobody. You know? That's the kind of attitude I had. You know, and I got on my knees and I did that prayer on page 63. You know, and I did that. And then I read my fourth. And then I looked at him and I thought I was going to be, you know, I've heard in these meetings that you're going to be happy, joyous, and free, and you're going to have the weight of your the world come off your chest and your shoulders. I felt guilty. I felt humiliated. I felt like scum. Right then and there, I felt like that. I felt I am the worst animal that ever walked on this earth. And that's how I felt. You know, and he told me, he says, okay, now you do another prayer. And he gave me a page number, and he told me, he says, I'll go home and pray this for 3 days straight. And I did. You know, and I started looking at it, and I started thinking of what I said and how I read it, and I kept looking at my fourth step, and I said, well, that wasn't that bad. Oh, shit, that ain't that bad. And I listened to his experiences in certain instances, and it wasn't that bad, but I made it to be a big deal. Just like everything in my life, you know, my parents have always told me I have potential. You know, if you would do this, you would be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I'd be up here, you know. I'd have put my goals up here. And as soon as I start climbing up to that goal, I'd say, no, I can't do it. So I'd say the 4-letter word. Boom. And there, I wouldn't do it. If I can't be any good at it, I ain't going to do it. So, you know, it's all this potential that killed me. I could never reach my own. But if I just looked at other people the way they saw it, the way I was doing it, I was doing real good. better than average. But the way I saw it, when I was reaching halfway, my half here, you know, I'd have put my goals up here. And as soon as I start climbing up to that goals, I'd say, no, I can't do it. So I'd say the 4-letter word. Boom. And there, I wouldn't do it. If I can't be any good at it, I ain't going to do it. So, you know, it's all this potential that killed me. I could never reach my own. But if I just looked at other people the way they saw it, the way I was doing it, I was doing real good. Better than average. But the way I saw it, when I was reaching halfway, my halfway was there to the top. You know, and my halfway, or what I thought was all the way to the top would be perfect. And I only have to reach halfway. And I say, forget it. I'm gone. And they say, God, he was so good. Why'd he take off? You know, and that's the way my life has been. You know, I got after all that 4-step, man, you know, I said, thank you. You know, I started relieving. It started getting better. You know, and then when they told me, says, okay, now, you've done your 4th, and now you've done your 5th, and you got a list of people that you have all harmed, and let's take care of that list. I says, what, are you kidding? I ain't going to my ex-wife. Are you crazy? You know, and to pay and make restitution, and I didn't make that much money at that time. I was making X amount of dollars, and if she took some of my money, I wouldn't have any. If I paid this guy, I wouldn't have any. I couldn't take out a girl. If I paid all of the bills that I had to pay, I couldn't eat. You know, I'd have to borrow on next week's check just to pay all these people. He says, no, you don't do that. You take one, you cut it in half, you pay half, or you pay a portion of it, and you keep chunking at it, one at a time. List it out in priorities, and I understand that. That I understand. I understand just piecing it. But since I don't have any consistency, I've never had any consistency, and then I have never had any long-term doing of anything except staying sober. I mean, drunk, you know. I says, well, I ain't going to do this too long. He says, you do it. Write it down, put it on your mirror. And I did. And I started sending checks. Every time I got a little bit of money, they got a little bit more. You know, and I still took out those girls. You know, I still took them out to dinner, out to wine them and not wine them, dine them. Whining is out. Dine them. You know. Well, I don't know. A couple of them I took out to wine. They were normies. You know, they got drunk and I got easy. Well, look at it, you know. But anyway, it's just, and I started paying these people off, and I started coming up to them and telling them, hey, I'm sorry. And then, you know, I had this one guy, he was a real good friend of mine, and I really screwed him royal. I mean, really bad. And I come up to him and I says, you know, he's my friend, he's always been my friend, I'm going to tell him I'm sorry. He's going to say, no problem. I mean, this guy yelled at me up and down, and he cussed me out, and he told me he never wanted to see me again, and I haven't talked to him since, you know. And I come back with my tail between my legs, and to my sponsor one more time. He says, this guy hurt my feelings, he wouldn't take my amends, he wouldn't do it. I says, hey, you did it. Don't worry about what he thought. It don't matter. It don't matter what he thinks. As long as your side of your street is clean, it don't matter. I says, what do you mean it don't matter? He's got to okay it. No, he don't. As long as you do it. As long as you make the effort to walk up to him, and you say you're sorry, and you mean it, and you don't do anything to do it again, or you try not to do it again, if you don't hurt that individual again, you'll be okay. You've made your amends. Now, if he wants to take it, if he wants to accept it, that's his problem. I mean, his game. You know, but you went up there. And I said, well, I can do that. I'll piss somebody off real quick, you know, and that way I don't have to say I'm sorry, you know, and I've done my job. He says, no, it don't work that way. You have to be honest. And I don't know anything about honesty. You know, the only way, there's a way you could tell if I'm honest or dishonest. The only time I'm honest is when I'm not breathing. At that point. You know, I lie. I don't know how to tell the truth. I really don't know how at that point. I don't know how. I've never known how. And my daughter lies like I do. She's 21 years old, and she lies just like I did. And my ex-wife says, "You're just like your dad." And I say, "Yeah." Yeah. But I have never learned how to be honest. I was a Catholic. I'm Catholic. I was the altar boy, and I was all this stuff, and they taught me all the stuff that you learn in catechism, and when you go to First Holy Communion, and when you go to Catholic school, and they taught you all that. They teach you all that, being honest and being helpful and being fair to people. But I didn't learn it. The switch turned off. Because when the switch turns off, I don't learn anything. If I don't want to. I'm that way. You can tell me all day long something. If I take the switch off, but I'll be smiling and looking at you, nod your head. You bet. You bet. Turn around and do whatever I want. That's the way I've been all my life. Today I find some direction. You have to show me how. Your way is better than my way because I'm here and you're there. You're sober longer than I am, so it's got to work your way, not mine. So I surrendered. It's one of those things that surrenders that, hey, my way don't work no more. Because it's only obvious that, I got 1 year or 2 years sober right now, at this point. And my way has not worked, and I'm not comfortable with me. So I said, okay, whatever you want me to do. So I started doing it. And it was pretty neat, it's pretty neat too when you make all these amends, you start living back the past again. It's really great, Tell you, I'm a grandiose guy. I made my last amends last year. I went to Hawaii. I have this 15-year-old daughter that I have to make amends to. I took her to Hawaii. I'm going to soften this one up because this one was a killer. Because I took her to Hawaii, and I'm going to spend all kinds of money on her. I'm going to really prime this one before I say sorry, one of those kind of deals. And in the plane, I'm sitting there going, God, I got to buy this, I got to buy this, and I'm going to go do this, and we're going to rent this, and we're going to rent this. And she says, Dad, you're an asshole. You don't even pay attention to me. You never have paid attention to me. Why are you taking me to Hawaii? In the airplane, she's sitting next to me. You're an asshole. And by the time we got to Hawaii, I made my amends. And she was crying, and I was crying. And I told her I loved her, and I wanted to do nothing but, I just want to be her, I don't want to be her dad, because I have never been her dad. She's 15 years old, I've never been her dad. I don't want to be your dad, I just want to be your friend. And if I can help you in any way, show you in any direction, give you kind of guidance that I have lived, because I have had a lot of life out there, got a lot of experience, and that's all I got, my experience. She cried, and I cried. I'm a big baby now, and I cried, and she held me, and we hugged, and she made me tear up that picture that you get when you land off in Hawaii, and they put lays on you, and she's got tears still in her eyes, and makeup's running because she's a chola. I don't know if you know what a chola is. She got makeup all the way up here, and she got pasted, She's not my child. I think she was adopted. And she's got this, and it's running down, and its makeup's all running down, and it's got this picture, and they gave it to I bought it, and she's telling me, and she's tearing it. You're an asshole, Dad. You're going to show everybody here. She's still calling me an asshole, but but that's okay. And I made my final amends last year with my youngest daughter, and it's been pretty good. It's a good relief that I don't have nobody no more. I haven't hurt anyone for about a year now. No one. I haven't hurt them physically. I have not hurt intentionally, mentally anyway, because sometimes I slip once in a while. I'm not perfect. I'm not God. Well, that's another story. No, I haven't hurt anybody, not intentionally anyway. You know, and not going out there and saying, I'm going to badmouth this person. I don't want to. Because I know what happens when I badmouth this person. It's going to come back at me. And it comes in full circle. And I believe that what goes around comes around. I believe that. If I hurt you, something's going to happen to me. I know it. Because, you know, God has a funny way of paying back. You know, paying you back. You know, and I got into that, and now I says, okay, I've made it. Now I'm 3 years sober, and 5 years sober now. You know, I'm going on my 6th year. I'm a big bad 6-year. You know, I'm free. I am going, and now my sponsor tells me, says, now go help other people. I said, wait a minute. That ain't in the contract here, man. I just wanted this pain out of here. So I started helping guys, you know, and I started putting my hand out, you know, and these guys are coming up to me, and I'm saying, how you doing? My name's Tony. You want to ride? And I got this back in my head still. A drunk threw up in my car this time, you know. Ain't gonna work, I don't think. I'll meet you at this meeting. And you got a car? I'll meet you there. You know, if there's a bus that runs this way, got a bus schedule for them and everything, you know. Most of the guys that I work with, you know, they all have cars, you know, and thank God, because I ain't giving nobody no rides. No way. That was a bad experience, you know. Scarred for life. And I work with these guys, and these guys are coming up in a year of sobriety now. You know, one just got one, and the other one is coming up in December. 2 of them are coming up in December, and one was coming up in February. You know, and they're all, and you could see the changes. How my sponsor obviously told me a long time ago, says you will change. I says, no, I ain't. I'm gonna always be this way. This is the way Tony is. This is the way he's gonna be always. He says, no, you're gonna change. This program will change you because you want to do something about it. You want to do something with your life. You want to be happy. You want good things in life, so you will have to change. You know, and I said, no. And he says, and I'll see you in 2 to 3 years, and you'll be totally different than when I first met you. Shaking and baking on that chair. You know, I was shaking bad. You know, I came from this place to where I'm at today, and that's been a long haul, long road. But you know, I know what that word is, trudging, means. And that trudging is not carrying a load, a pack of, to me. It's walking with purpose. And I got a purpose in life today. You know, I walk, and I see these guys coming up in 1 year, and this guy was a hostile individual a year ago. He hated women to the end. I mean, he sat next to one, and he told him, you're nothing but a blank, 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 B, and I mean, just kick. And the woman got up and moved. I mean, he just belittled this lady. God, called her every name because he didn't want no woman sitting next to him. And he wasn't about to move. And he picked on a woman that had a small husband, so. But he's that belligerent. And today he's totally different. He hasn't changed a lot. I mean, in that magnitude. But he's changed. And you can see it, you know, 1 year already. And I can see the happiness that they have. And I get happy just to think that I didn't do anything except take them to the meeting, you know, be at the meeting when they were at the meeting, be there at a meeting. When I say I'm at a meeting, I'll be there and have my meetings, my committed meetings, you know, and tell them, and I'll be in those meetings, and you'll be there too if you want to stay sober. If you want to talk to me, that's where I'm at. I'm not going to look for you. You're going to look for me. You know, and I tell them that, and they show up every week, and they get changed, and their eyes change, and their heart changes, and their attitude changes, and I change because I can see it, because I'm getting softer now, because they're making me softer, because I'm seeing the happiness in their eyes. And I'm seeing the joy and the life coming out of them. and I get softer that way. And the more I give to him, the softer I get, and the better I like it. You know, I thought you were supposed to be bad. You know, Mr. Bo Bitchin. You know, sitting back here. Hey, I'm Mr. Bo Bitchin. But I like being soft. You know, I like crying. You know, I was with a guy in my living room, and he was telling me about his story, and he was crying, and I'm crying, and I go and say. And I had a flashback back from the 60s, I guess. And I'm sitting there going, God, if my friends see me now from the 60s in the block, that'd kill me. I'm crying here, you know? And I'm trying to get my composure, and shit. Nobody knows me anyway. So, you know, and that's how, and my daughter calls me up, you know, on a periodic basis, you know. I got this grandson. He's a short little Mexican. He's got legs about this big, you know. He's got dimples in every finger, you know. I mean, he eats a lot of beans and tortillas, man. This kid is fat. When he was born, I bought him a fishing pole, a tackle, and a pair of Levi's this big. He was 1 hour old, and I was running down to the store picking this shit up. I was bringing it back, you know, and I'm sitting there, and this little fat, dark, wrinkly Mexican kid there, and he calls me Grandpa, and his first year birthday, I bought him a green tuxedo. He ain't gonna be no cholo to me. I'm gonna control the issue here. A green tuxedo with a cummerbund and all. Yeah, this is great, with patent leather shoes. You bet. And I had this girl come over and combed his hair. Styled it with hairspray and everything. This kid was this was a kind. He was a kind. He was a neat kid. You know, and he's a joy, you know, and it's because of Alcoholics Anonymous and 12 Steps, you know, and me willing to do something about it, and in the direction of my sponsor, you know, and giving just listening to his experiences, not what he done, but how he felt doing them, kept me coming back. And I'd like to thank you for allowing me to share that experience. Thank you.